What's up everyone, it's a Knife Style here, and today I'm going to be doing my full review on the Spyderco Military. So this is a very old knife, and this specific knife is a bento box exclusive, but it is actually still in stock right now, so there will be a link in the description to that. I don't have a direct link to the exact knife, but I can get you to the main bento box screen where you will be able to scroll down and see it. So anyway, I want to thank Idea315 for sending me this knife out for review. He has been a very long time supporter of this channel. I believe he's been here since, or before I even hit 100 subscribers, and you've probably seen him in the comments here and there. And so yeah, thank you to him. And so on to the start of my review, I guess. The overall looks of this knife, I overall like it a lot. You know, a lot of people, I'm going to talk about this tip down, a lot of people dislike it. Maybe I'll prove you wrong with this one, but I do really like the color of this blue, and it's just a simple satin grind, and yeah, it's overall pretty good. And so let's take a look at this fit and finish of this knife. So overall, the fitment of this, the tolerances seem decently tight, not the tightest things ever, but it overall seems good, no real flaws. There's no protrusion of this little backspacer here. Lanyard hole seems fine. Oh yeah, let me say that his specific military has been tapped for tip up carry, and there was a CQI later in the productions of the military to increase the size of the lanyard hole, because I don't think that that could even fit 550 paracord in there. And he put a sharpening choil in the blade, and I think that a sharpening choil, especially on one of these big Spydercos, is super nice because you know, you have a lot of blade to work with. If it's a small knife like the Para 3, you might get some things caught in that because you're working with only a couple inches of blade. But when it's a super long cutting edge like this, it's just really nice. And when you're sharpening a Spyderco, if you sharpen freehand, or maybe you'll notice this if you sharpen on a KME, I'm not really sure, but a lot of times when I'm sharpening freehand, I'll sharpen like this, and since I'm not sharpening it straight up and down, I'm sharpening at about a 45-degree angle, this little part right here will bump against my stone, and you know, sometimes I'm paranoid about that, so I won't go all the way down to the end of the knife. Then I notice I won't form a burr at the end. Basically, that little nub there hitting the choil or hitting the stone sometimes cause me to mess up at the base of my knife. So I think that sharpening choil is a really great addition to this. I forgot to do the specs and size comparisons, so let me throw up some size comparisons here. Where's my PM2? I just had it out for this review, and I can't find it now. Oh yeah, here it is, right in front of my face. Okay, so we have the PM2, the military, and then the Para 3. So as you guys can see, the military is much larger. The overall length of the military is 9.5 inches with a blade length of 4 inches and then a weight of 4.2 ounces. And so that doesn't achieve the ounce to inch ratio, but when knives go way up in blade length, that usually means that they also go way up in handle length, which therefore makes it a lot heavier. So the ounce to inch ratio, I don't even think it can be considered for big knives like this, because it's not possible. And this is one of the lightest knives I've ever felt for a 4-inch blade, especially. I mean, 4.2 ounces for a 4-inch blade for 9.5 inches overall, that is absolutely crazy. And so it carries very light in the pocket. It carries just like a normal knife. This is lighter than a lot of your titanium frame locks you see. And yeah, it's just insanely light, and I don't even understand how Spyderco could pull that off. But anyway, I was talking about the fit and finish, so yeah, centering looking, it might be a tad bit off-centered, but yeah, it's also pretty good. And lockup, which I'll talk about now, this liner lock is by far the best liner lock that I have ever handled in my life. Now, granted, not to be mean to some of my liner locks in my collections, but a lot of times they're budget liner locks like this, because you don't see liner locks that much when you are talking knives in this $200 price range, because a lot of times these companies push titanium frame locks, or maybe different locks, like Spyderco would do a compression lock, or Benchmade an axis lock, whatever. But this is the best liner lock. It's just such a solid lockup. And look at this lock bar access, it's so good. This jimping is very fine here, and it is grippy, but what I like about it is I don't even feel it when engaging that lock bar, and I don't feel it when holding it in my hand for ergonomics. So yeah, this is the best liner lock I've ever seen, and it is by far the strongest one. I would trust this liner lock for hard use. I wouldn't baton with it because then you probably get lock rock, but still, I would trust that for every task that I ever do with my knives. And I don't really do that much hard use stuff, but I think that this knife would probably be such a good knife to, if you're going out on the weekend doing some yard work or just maintenance somewhere. This would be a great knife to throw in your back pocket of your work pants, because that's where tip down really excels in back pocket carry. Don't get me wrong, it can be carried in the front pocket, but yeah, so the locking mechanism is the best liner lock I have ever seen, and it really just makes me confused why Spyderco, on a knife that was made so long ago, why they stopped making this liner lock, because I would love to see like a PM2 with, like, if the PM2 was literally a military without the compression lock and had that liner lock, I'd honestly like it more. Now, the compression lock I do like, don't get me wrong, and I feel like a lot of people might get mad about that, but I feel like that liner lock has so much potential and is so good, it's almost a waste to not use it anymore. Kind of like the Mannix cage or ball bearing cage lock. That lock looks really nice, and I wish Spyderco would use that more, especially on some of their newer models coming out, that the compression lock, it works functionally, like it works completely fine, but it just seems like that lock doesn't really fit it. I don't really know if that makes any sense to you guys, but let me talk about this blade. So it's just a simple blade shape that's like the same on the Para 3 and the PM2, that's just stretched out a bit, and it is CPM S90V. And S90V is the best steel I have ever had on the table. I just got my St. Nick's Native 5 lightweight in M4. I'm actually carrying it right now, but M4 might be better than S90V. I don't know. They're kind of different. S90V has very good corrosion resistance and good edge retention. M4 is more of a tough user steel. But for all the things that I do with a knife, S90V is one of the best steels and will excel greatly in that. Just their simple cardboard cutting task, this will do so good. I really feel like, or I was breaking down some cardboard with this, and I really feel like if there was like a mountain of cardboard just stacked up in my house that I had to break down for recycling, this would be my go-to knife to grab, because it wouldn't be like I'd be in public so I'd have to use the knife that's in my pocket. I'd go and grab this military and just go to work with it, because it's such a nice long blade shape. It comes to about 19 thousandths beyond the edge, so pretty average for your Spyderco, and it's just a very good cutter, and I really, really like the blade of this knife. It's just an awesome blade. And I actually did a side-by-side cut test with a PM2, and the military cut better than it. The PM2 cut fine, but the military just did better. Now, that could be because my edge is worse than his edge, but it was still noticeable enough to know that the military was probably the better cutter. But anyway, on to the carry of this knife. So this is where a lot of controversy comes in with this knife, and a lot of people just immediately write it off. It is tip down carry, and I will just throw it with this cloth here. Basically, there is going to be a lot hanging out of your pocket, and I wish that it was a little bit of a deeper carry, but if you guys have noticed, like, the more I've grown as a knife channel, the more I've realized I don't really care about the carry of my knife. I just find that this would be easy to grab, and this was designed to be a military combat, maybe first responders knife. And so you pull this right out of your pocket, and then your thumb is right by that thumb hole, and you're ready to go with it. And if it was tipped down, you'd pull it out, and then you'd be like, and then you grab it, and you'd have to inch up like that, and then do it. So that's why it is tip down carry, because on such a big knife, you'd have to inch way up to pull it out. Now, tip up on something like the Para 3, you'd pull it out and your thumb's already close. You can Spidey flick it just straight off from there. And so that is why this knife is tip down. Maybe they could have given the tip up option just for people who had wanted it, but I honestly probably would have kept it tip down. And so I wouldn't suggest, so now for the ergonomics, I would not suggest changing this pocket clip. I mean, maybe an aftermarket pocket clip for this would be amazing, this deep carry, but truthfully, in the ergonomics of this knife, I do not feel this clip at all. I really have no idea how. If I just lay my hand right over that clip and just bear down with all my strength, I cannot even get a hot spot out of it. Like, it won't even show up in my hand from where I touch that clip. And there are so many good grips for this knife, but these are probably the main ones that I would do. First, this all the way choked up grip. If I'm doing any EDC tasks with this, just normal things, I definitely do it like this. If I'm using this for a harder use situation, I think that this grip is really good. You know, you can get a lot of good leverage, maybe even chop with it a little bit, which I probably wouldn't even need to do. But you can grip it right here, grip it right here, grip it somewhere in between, which also feels really good. I can two-hand this knife. I can get one hand and then 3 fingers on my next hand. So yeah, they better watch out for me with this thing. But anyway, I really do like this knife. If you're holding it, yeah, a pinch grip like that is excellent. And I do not even feel that clip at all. Yeah, that'd probably be one of my favorite grips. If you want to draw cut with this, I mean, yeah, it'd work fine, but still, and the weight of it actually makes it kind of reasonable for draw cuts. So I've not measured this balance point. This pocket clip is kind of in the way of me doing this, but yeah, it's somewhere in there. So somewhere, if you're gripping it right here, that's going to be well balanced. So if you're choking up, might be a tad bit blade heavy, but that's how usually most Spydercos run. And so yeah, this overall, the ergonomics of this knife are so surprising. And a lot of people just write off tip down, and I ask them, or I don't really ask them because I haven't really talked to them. But anyway, if you are one of those tip down die-hard people, I really just ask you, well, is it because it looks funny, or like what are your reasons for not carrying tip down? One, it might look weird. Two, you might not be used to it. But for a big knife like this, you're going to pull it out, you're going to be right there ready to open it. And also, if it doesn't affect the ergonomics, then why is it even a problem at all? I get it, this carry isn't deep, but a lot of tip down knives carry deeper than this. And so if tip down doesn't affect the ergonomics, if it still carries good to you, then why? And if you pull it out, if it is better for you to pull it out and then open it, I don't understand why people would be against tip down, and I personally like it. Because a knife that is tipped down with good ergos and a big knife, I'm probably going to keep it tipped down like that. And so, yeah, I am really happy with this knife, and especially I'm happy with the carry, and I'm insanely surprised with the ergonomics, how with that pocket clip there, I cannot even get a hot spot. And my hands aren't the average person's hands. I guess I have thinner fingers than most people out there, which is kind of a weird flex, but okay moment. But anyway, I don't understand how this knife can provide no hot spots, and it is one of the best Spydercos I've ever held in my hand, and it is tip down carry when I'm resting my hand entirely on that pocket clip. So the action of this knife, a lot of people are going to care about the action, and I have failed it a couple times just because my camera, the little tripod, is right there, like I just touched it. And so this is such a big blade, I'm afraid I'm going to smack the blade on that tripod. But anyway, the action of this is fine. I mean, I can thumb flick it like that. Here, I'll do a quick detent check. So yeah, the detent is still, it's pretty good. It's soft enough to where I like it, where you can thumb roll it out like that really easily. Usually all my Spydercos that I use, whenever I pull it out, I'm just thumb rolling it like that constantly. When I pull out a pair of 3, I thumb roll it. It's just kind of what I do. I don't know why. It's just if there's a box that I need to break down, I don't pull it out of my pocket and then I'm like, all right, got my middle finger set on the hole, let's give it a flick and then do that. I just think that it's kind of impractical, and I just thumb roll my knives mostly, and I think that that works completely fine. So yeah, the action of this is good. It is different compared to most Spydercos because it's just a really large blade, and I've never felt a Spyderco this big. But anyway, the drop shuttiness of this action, I don't care about the drop shuttiness of a knife. I know a lot of people do, but I will give it to Spyderco. For running on washers, this feels like it's running on dual row bearings. Just look at this. Immediately just falls straight to my hand. Now, I don't know if it's the pressure of the detent ball sitting on or resting on the detent track when I go down, but this will not just like fall shut like some of the knives I own. But anyway, the action of this is very surprising for how good this is, and this 4-inch blade really helps with the action, of course. So yeah, I'm really happy with the action. And so for the attention to detail on this knife, what notes could I point out? One, this pivot is a T15 pivot, which is kind of insane. One of the biggest pivots I've ever had on the table with me, but I did not take this knife apart, and so T15 pivot is nice. If you strip that out, you might have some problems, or it might be a defect in your screw. But anyway, I really like the extra chamfering that went into this knife. That'd be my biggest point for the attention to detail. I should have mentioned it more in ergonomics, but look at this. Look at that, these big chamfers that go all the way around that knife. And I just don't understand what happened to these. Because if you look at that and then you look at the PM2, you know, I'm going to be doing a separate video comparing these knives. But yeah, there's like one tiny chamfer there, and these PM2 scales are not even contoured. So that's a big problem that I don't like about the ergos with the PM2. They're literally just slabs of G10, but this one, man, the ergos on this one are so good. And so yeah, for the attention to detail of this knife, I really enjoy the contouredness of the handles. And for the lanyard hole, I do like that it's small and out of the way. I do understand why they would make it bigger though. I just kind of wish that on the Para 3 they kept the small lanyard hole or just didn't go with one at all. And I bet a lot of Para 3 fans cry whenever they see that tiny lanyard hole and how they used to do that like 20 years ago. But anyway, on to the final part of this knife, the value. So I just checked Blade HQ to get my little spec sheet before this, and the stock one was about $196, I think. And so I bet this one is around that $200 mark for S90V and the Blurple. But I really just, I think that price is really, I think that price is verified, especially with the S90V one, because S90V, super strong liner lock, G10 scales, good ergonomics, really good knife. And yeah, I think that price is definitely justified. Now, a lot of people probably aren't going to get the S30V and G10 one, and I understand that. I probably won't get that one. I would, you know, honestly, I would wait around for a sprint run of this, because a lot of times the sprint runs have better steals and are the same exact price from it, or I guess it'd be a dealer exclusive if they'd be the same exact price. But anyway, I would wait around for a dealer exclusive of the military. If I had to get a military, I'd probably want to try either the Rex 45 one, this one, which I already have tried, or the M4 Blade HQ one. And so yeah, I really enjoyed this military. I think that it'd be such a good user work knife. And the only thing holding me back from having this one bought right now and shipped right to my door is the size of it, to be totally honest. I don't usually use my knives. I'm not a super hard user of my knives, and even though this knife would be super good as a user knife, it's just a little bit too big for the things that I do. It would be awesome to have it around the house. If I just got to yak through a ton of cardboard, this would be my go-to knife. But it's just, the size is holding me off a bit, and I think that you guys can understand that. But the size, the weight ratio is crazy on this knife. And so yeah, I've really enjoyed the military. It would be cool if they came out with a mini military. That's kind of crazy to ask for, and I'm not really even asking for it because I don't expect Spyderco to do that. But that would be cool to see how the ergonomics would stack up with a mini one, and see if there still wouldn't be any hot spots with the tip down carry. So that's going to do it for this video. Once again, thanks to Idea315 for shipping this out to me. Expect a review or a first impressions on the St. Nick's Native coming out in the next couple of days. And then I will do a video comparing these two knives, the paramilitary and the military. Just basically, I don't know if it'll be a battle of the blades 100%, but it'll be something like that. Something like that. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you're new. We actually hit 500 subscribers, so I'm really excited about that, and expect a 500 subscriber giveaway coming up soon. So thank you all for subscribing. I'll see you guys in the next one.